Welcome to the DotPro with BreakyCPK. I am BreakyCPK, and once again, excited to have you here on yet another episode of the DotPro Show. Looking forward to talking some more competitive Dota and things that happened throughout this week here. And also, of course, excited to be joined by my again, really only one guest today because we pretty much made the statement. Zrock will be joining me later on in the show. We'll actually be talking about our predictions coming up for TI. The predictions were released on the compendium. If you haven't found that out yet, you can definitely do it yourselves. But we're going to talk about our personal predictions and where we think things are going when it comes to that. So we're gonna have fun with that later on in the show. But the one guest I do have on today is actually going to be Kips, who is the coach / statistician and analyst, whatever you want to say. Really, she definitely does a lot of this work behind the scenes for the team and helps them get prepared for their matches. She's actually been in the scene for a while. She's formerly a Fnatic, now with TNC, and of course, and no doubt a part of their success and why they're going to TI7. So happy to have her on later on and kind of get her perspective on the whole situation and that different perspective from more so behind the scenes rather than being a player that is going to TI7 instead more, again, on the coach and analysis side. So really looking forward to that and having some fun talking some Dota with her there. But before we get into all of that, of course, I like to kick things off with a little segment: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I'm not gonna lie. This week's show, I was struggling a little bit to find, really good topics to talk about. We're in that state right now when it comes to competitive Dota 2, where yes, we have TI7 coming up just around the corner. I mean, it is 2.5 weeks away, I want to say. Really about 3 weeks away. It's about 3 weeks away here. Yeah, really 2.5 weeks away, because it is, as I'm recording this, it's July 20th even. So, time you hear this, July 21st into the week, it's basically 2.5 weeks away. I mean, it is getting freaking close. However, we are in a bit of a lull phase, as is understandable, because all these teams are obviously preparing for the event, and other lands aren't taking place necessarily, at least not a lot. Of course, we did have MDL a week and a half ago, whatever it was. We do have the DreamHack tournament coming up this weekend, so there is a little bit of something finally that's going to be happening. But again, it's only a 4-team tournament. You do have Team Secret as well as Liquid that are going to be playing in it, so it's going to be interesting to see what they bring to the table when it comes to this event. But long story short, there isn't a whole lot going on, when it comes to that. So as far as topics that I wanted to talk about, though, and there are some things that happen. So let's start with the good here. The good is a couple of team announcements, new team announcements. And actually, so we're talking about the same players, but a couple of teams were picked up by sponsorships. Now, when I was going into recording this, I only planned to talk about one, actually. There's the team Hellraisers. Hellraisers, the esports organization, they actually have a decent CSGO team. They've been around for a little bit. They actually officially picked up what was Planet Dog's team. So they picked up that roster right there. So obviously, that's, pretty big news. And it was kind of expected that this team was going to get a sponsorship. Zrock and I were talking about this on, I don't know if it's last week's show or the previous show, but, when a team is going to such a prestigious event, arguably the biggest esports event in the world in history, at least when it comes to prize pool, of course, we're over 22 million now, I believe it is. Congratulations, by the way, before we go any further. Holy shit, is that awesome. Over a $22 million prize pool. I predicted 23 to 24 million. At this rate, it very possibly could go further than that. And obviously we just had a big search here recently. The treasures, the third set of treasures just came out here within the last couple of days even. So that's why we've even had even more of a raise here. But I'm checking right now. Okay, it isn't at 22 million. It's just 21.85 million right now. But again, let's just say with still plenty of time, with at least a couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken, before that closes. I could see it getting 24, even 25 million at this rate. We'll see where it goes. Point is, it is the highest prize pool ever in esports history, so obviously congratulations for that. But going back to my initial point, Hellraisers picking up what was Planet Dog's roster right there. Going into this event, it's huge promotion, and you got to think that they got a decent deal out of this, and by they I mean the players themselves, because for an event that's going to get so many eyes, so much focus on it, at least I hope that's the case, and I would believe that's the case, that they definitely worked out a pretty good, favorable deal, along the lines of, I would hope that the players are going to be able to keep most, if not all, the prize pool, of course, pending coaches or whatnot, but on top of that, even Hellraiser's not only hooking them up with some hardware, but on top of that, maybe even paying them a salary source. Who knows? I don't know exactly what's going to go on. Maybe they're paying for the boot camp. I don't know exactly what's going on. But the point is, I'm sure they got a good deal out of this. And congratulations to them. Now, we were kind of speculating what organizations would pick up a team. I think we even mentioned, I thought maybe like a Dignitas could come in. And we also mentioned North. North is actually Milk, formerly of the Dota 2 scene. No, I mean, obviously he has a lot of history in Dota and Dota 2. He's one of the higher management of the North organization, which also is very popular in CSGO now. And he did mention in an interview, this was 4 or 5 months ago now, that they were interested in picking up a Dota 2 team possibly in the future. So that was another one that was coming to mind definitely as well. But again, Hellraisers, they're the ones that can claim it. And so J4, Milan, Swift Ending, 3-3, and Kaiser are officially now a part of Hellraisers. And okay, so congratulations to them. And this is a team that I know a lot of people aren't expecting much out of, but Don't let them fool you. Like, this is a team I could see finishing in the middle of the pack. If they have a good couple of days, they have that potential. They really do. They've proven that they are solid players. So don't want to get too much into that, though. Point is, that's good. Now, so as I mentioned, I was only planning to talk about the one team picking up a roster. However, literally an hour or so before I started this recording, it turns out another one was announced that was a little bit more surprising, I think you could say. But at the same time, maybe not, because Cloud9 has officially picked up Team NP, or what was formerly known as Team NP. That is right. So Eternal Envy, Fata, MSS, Aoi 2000, and Pylai Dai are now a part of Cloud9. If I'm not mistaken, for several of these players, this is a repeat of sorts in terms of them being on the team before. I would really have to look at the history again. I'm not the most familiar, but I'm kind of even going through right now, to be honest. Fata was a part of it in the past. Eternal Envy, of course, obviously was a part of it. Aoi and Pylai Dai were also a part of it. So yeah, MSS is the only one. No, you know what? He actually does have history too. So literally all these players are former Cloud9 players. They've actually played with the organization before, not necessarily all together. So it's just kind of funny how it's worked out the way, but it almost like naturally makes sense, right? Where it is a little surprising to me on this case because unlike Planet Dog, I thought Team NP was kind of building a brand themselves, right? Like I thought that was kind of the whole idea with what Eternal Envy was doing here with creating this team, and I believe he's even funding it, to kind of doing the ice thing with what he did with Faceless. Now, granted, Ice did make a point that ultimately the investment, maybe he did lose money in the big picture after they ended up disbanding recently. So maybe that kind of Eternal Levy saw that a little bit as, wasn't worth it in his mind, whatever. But another case of, I'm sure they're getting a very good deal out of this. And obviously this is a very, very prestigious organization when it comes to just esports in general. And they happen to have history with even Dota 2 and all of these players. So Cloud9 picking up what was formerly Team NP. Pretty awesome stuff right there. So we're going to have both Cloud9 and Hellraisers now attending TI7 with these pickups here of these rosters. So that's pretty cool. In fact, and I'm just double checking now. I believe, technically every team is an official esports organization now. I mean, I guess NP was before, just like kind of Secret is, somewhat player owned, but there's no Planet Dogs anymore, which I think it's good to see. It would have been kind of awkward all of a sudden seeing Planet Dogs throw it in there. And as we got the chance to interview 3-3, obviously, in a couple of shows ago, and Steve made the point, there was literally no purpose behind the name outside of it happened to be a P and a D, because they had the tag PD still, formerly from Pro Dota. But obviously, it's good that they're now Hellraisers. Again, more of this official organization. It definitely just fits better for the event. So congratulations to those teams. Again, picking them up. So that's definitely some good news to hear here throughout this week and what's been what's been going on. Now, as far as the bad goes, kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier. We're in a state right now where there really hasn't been a whole lot going on. Now, not to take away from events that have been happening, there have been a couple of things happening. There was the ROG Master qualifiers are taking place, and there was one. Did it finish, or it was Overpower? I want to say the Overpower Cup, if I'm not mistaken, also has been happening here recently. We're talking about like a $5,000 tournament, so. Stuff's been happening, but we're not talking about any really prestigious teams. Team Empire did actually compete in the Overpower Cup, so that's one team that of all the TI teams that has been playing. But outside of Team Empire, we have not seen any of these TI7 teams playing any matches since MDL. So now I'm not complaining. I mean, okay, oh my God, we're going more than a little over a week without top tier competitive Dota. Whatever shall we do, right? But this also kind of goes back to, again, there really wasn't a whole lot of bad this week, frankly, when it came to news stories. At least not off the top of my head. I might be missing something pretty obvious, so definitely let me know if I did. But that would have to be the bad. Now, as I mentioned, we do have DreamHack coming up, the Dream League finals of 4 teams that are going to be in that. So it's something at least, and it is Team Liquid and Secret as well as Vegas Squadron and who was a 4th team? It was it not Digital Chaos? Wait a second. Oh, that's right. Planet Odd. That's right. Planet Odd is going. Anyways. Yeah, Planet Odd, unfortunately, not qualifying for TI7 right there. Anyway, so that would be the bad. Then we have the ugly. Now, the ugly, again, this is a little bit of a stretch right here. This isn't necessarily competitive focused, but it kind of is, I guess you could say, because it is tied in with the TI7 event itself. We had some drama this last week, really with these last couple of days, with the secret shop that was just opened up recently. Valve announced 2 or 3 days ago that the secret shop was opening, the secret store, whatever it's called. Basically, with all their merchandise that they're selling for the TI7 event that people can buy online, use the service that they provided to make purchases and purchase all these fun things, from mouse pads to plushies to pillows to whatever, a lot of ridiculous stuff. And it is stuff that I'm actually looking forward to when I get to TI7 to being able to purchase myself, a good amount of it. However, apparently they're using a company again called We Love Fine. And now, again, I'm just simply going off what I've really just read in these Reddit posts here, as I do with a lot of these topics that I'm frankly not the most knowledgeable about, but doing my best to, get what I can. I guess they did use We Love Fine last year as well, this distributor, or this company. I'm not even exactly sure 100% what they're necessarily supposed to be, but the point is they're the ones that are behind the scenes in terms of providing the service to selling these products and the merchandise overseas, especially. And there was massive complaints that were brought up from both last year and now already going to this year. A couple of hot topics. One being the customer service itself is apparently has some pretty poor history, not being the best at being able to deal with customer service, especially with on the level that they have to deal with it. And then the other one is probably even the bigger one is the shipping costs. The shipping costs have proven to be absolutely ludicrous, apparently, when it comes to especially not only shipping overseas, which you would kind of expect to, maybe even be somewhat ridiculous prices, but even within the U.S., we were hearing stories of people, going to buy a shirt for $15 and they were adding $20 to $30 on top of that for shipping costs. I mean, it was pretty absurd, when we're looking at some of these numbers and what people were saying as far as what they were being an actual charge or what they were trying to charge for these things. Now, again, what if they're doing this out of greed? If they're doing this because that's just how they have it set up, they don't, have necessarily the tools to do this on the level that really Valve wanted or needed them to. I'm not 100% sure, but clearly there's issues there. However, props to Valve, because basically after a couple of days of a shitstorm, frankly, on Reddit, Twitter, whatever, towards the secret store, they ended up closing the secret shop for now, and they're going to try to reopen it in a timely manner when they get things figured out, maybe get a different company behind the scenes to help them out, whatever it may be. Hopefully they do end up reopening it up, but they ended up closing it with making the point that, yeah, clearly there's something wrong here. Clearly this isn't going to work and we need to take care of it. So long story short, they ended up closing the secret shop for now. And unfortunately, you were unable to make those purchases at this time. Again, hopefully that gets taken care of, but that is definitely an ugly that we have been dealing with here when it comes to the little bit of news we've had throughout this last week here. There you go, guys. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think as always. All right, we're going to be having our one and only guest coming up on the show, but I am really excited to have her again, get a different perspective in terms of being more on the coaching and analyst side going into a TI7 event. We're going to be joined by Kips of TNC. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So now we're going to kind of change of pace a little bit. Obviously, I have plenty of guests on throughout my shows, but this is going to be a guest from more the management side, you could say even. I'm actually going to be joined by Kips here of the TNC organization. Kips, how's it going?
Hello. I'm doing pretty fine. Thank you for asking.
So just to clarify for those out there as well, what exactly do you do with TNC? What is your role?
I am their analyst / coach, and what exactly I do depends a bit on the demands of the moment. If we are scrimming in between tournaments, I will be more of a coach. I will be watching the team scrim and I will suggest improvements afterwards and point out mistakes. And if we are in a tournament, I am mostly going to be scouting opponents and telling our captain, in this case, Theben, what he can expect of our next opponent, and I will suggest things to play against them or strategies to run.
Speaking of Theben, I did have him on a couple shows ago. It was great to talk with him, and of course on TNC qualifying. What did you think when Theben joined the team? Were you excited? Were you unsure?
I was very excited, actually. The management, of course, kept me in the loop in the proceedings of how we were going to replace Rior. And Theben was one of my top choices, and I was really happy that he wanted to come out here, like all the way to the other side of the world, and join these four crazy Pinoys on this amazing adventure. So I was very excited. Also a little bit intimidated though, because this guy, he's always described as, well, one of the people with the biggest Dota IQs, right? And he has coached a lot of very good teams. So I was obviously also kind of, what if they don't need me anymore now that they have someone who is this good at the game, right? But that's not true.
No, yeah, it seems like that they are happy to have you, and you fit in very well with them. I mean, what is it like with the chemistry of the team, and even you being a part of that? Is it safe to say it's a happy environment there?
It is a very happy environment. These guys are so cheerful. It is, well, I mean, if I compare it to the Fnatic that I was on, it was a very business-like team. They were good friends, obviously, but things could get pretty dark and serious. And these dudes, yeah, they might have a disagreement sometimes, but they'll solve it and they'll go right back to, I don't know, singing really loudly or stuff like that.
Nice. That's good to hear. And actually, again, before we get too much into this, I know that Theben was talking about how they were in the process of moving. It sounds like that you are moved in now to this the new team house there?
Yeah, I am in the new house right now. It took a bit of doing to get the internet going here, but everything's up now. And while we were away, I was in Singapore, Malaysia. The team was in Indonesia. Red Bull was actually so kind as to fix this place up a little bit. So they did an amazing painting on the wall, and they put a couch down and cushions and that sort of thing. So it is actually a team house now, as opposed to just some, a room with 5 computers in it.
Living the high life now, I see, with TNC right there. So that must be a good time. But well-deserved, of course, well-deserved. Speaking of that, one of these main reasons you guys are having a lot of success there with TNC.
I'm very happy for these guys. Oh, sorry. No, I am very happy for these guys to get an environment like this finally, because the previous bootcamp was like a tiny little room. Like most other, if that's a room in your house, you'd barely call it a bedroom. And then before that, I have heard stories of the times where they literally had, they only had 4 mattresses. So one of them would have to sleep in a chair every night. And I am so glad that these guys have found enough success so we can afford a proper house and give separate rooms to the people that want them and have someone to cook for us, because they came from literally nothing.
Yeah. And it allows them to focus solely on winning these matches and winning these tournaments. And that's the most important thing, obviously, when you're a player in the scene. And so on that note, of course, you guys are working off a lot of success here recently, going to TI7. You qualified via the group stages there. What was your personal reaction like when the team had qualified and you knew that you were going to Seattle?
I was in the room when it happened because we didn't have a lot of space in the previous bootcamp, as I said. So I was in the playing room and I was just sitting there. And I couldn't actually even force myself to watch the final game against Fnatic. It was a bit too much. I just spent 4 days straight getting anything that we could find on opponents, and when it was over, they kept focused to the last second, right? The very last second they have these game faces on, and then when the GG comes down, everyone jumps from their chairs and starts screaming and yelling. And I jumped from my chair as well. Unfortunately, there was no one for me to hug, because this is still a pretty conservative country. So these boys are not going to start hugging all kinds of women just yet. But there were some high fives and a lot of smiles, and everyone was super happy.
I think I remember seeing the video footage actually of that, and it's always awesome to see that raw emotion coming out of the players and people like yourself, that put all this time and effort into a team, and then to have it, come to fruition, knowing that you're going to a TI event. Obviously, must be such a cool feeling that only so few people really do get to experience.
Yeah, it is. I am very proud of the boys, and when everything had calmed down a little bit, I sat down and I called my dad. He'd been watching our games from all the way across the world, and we just had a tiny little father-daughter moment. It was very it was very good to be able to share it with someone who was that close to me, even if not geographically at that moment.
Yeah. So obviously you qualified, and that means you guys played very well, or well enough to qualify. But how do you think, as the coach side of you, were you overall happy with the way TNC played throughout these group stages, or were there some things that you're like, we're going to need to work on here?
I am very happy with their consistency and the way they took every opponent seriously. And I think part of that is also my task, because in showing what an opponent is going to do, if I think they might not take an opponent seriously, I wouldn't say exaggerate, but I can make them focus on the fact that this enemy team is good at things, and they will catch you out on this if you don't respect them properly. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, we had a general strategy going into these qualifiers, and it all worked out really fine. And the only match where we dropped the game, right? Yeah. It's just like every other team that won their group stage, I think. Everyone dropped one map, and we did as well. We lost to Clutch. And that game, it's pretty, how do you say? We stopped talking during that game. That's what happened. We stopped talking about what we needed to do. and about how we're going to take these fights, and instead we just engage them head on, which is kind of a waste if you have a Sven with a blink dagger and you have an IO who can just carry you to the back of the fight if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But we always engage them head on. And I think part of the problem there is that Clutch was actually the only team we had a plan for, starting from the start of the qualifiers. So if you do everything like, alright, we have this opponent now, and now we're gonna start working on defeating them, we were saving Sven IO for Clutch, right from the start. And then you start expecting, oh, we have Sven IO, we're gonna win this game. And as soon as you have expectations and things start going wrong, you have so many more problems than if you weren't expecting anything and you just drafted the Sven IO because this seemed like a good moment to pull it out. So, to me, that was the biggest lesson to learn about these qualifiers is there is no such thing as over-preparation, but you gotta make sure that it doesn't lead to any expectations that are unrealistic or that are going to block you once you are in the match itself.
Yeah, no, that's a great attitude to have, obviously, yeah. Especially in a game like Dota, where you can't guarantee that something is going to absolutely work. And of course, there's plenty of, as I like the term to use, is plenty of curveball potential where something can come out of the draft and you're just like, wait, what are they doing with that? And on that note, was there anything that you specifically remember from the group stages there that really stood out to you of like the meta that was being used maybe by some of these teams, or a specific hero that you kind of just did not expect but threw you for a loop?
Honestly, not really. We know all these teams. We've scrimmed most of them at least once. I think Faceless was a bit... I didn't think they'd actually have the guts to pull out the Tiny, but they did. So, but we were aware that that was a possibility. And stuff like, well, Mineski throws a Broodmother at us, and we were already expecting them to consider that, because it's a Mag Brood, right?
Yeah.
You always got to think about that. So we were already drafting with that in mind, and I think that's actually where their expectations killed them, perhaps. Because they still picked the Brood even when we already had a draft that was made with the Brood in mind. So
go ahead.
Yeah, but I think for most of it, it's all pretty expected SEA Dota in a way, where they're going to be fast and we are going to be a little bit slower and a little bit more thoughtful. We've got a little bit more, well, Theban in the mix, you could say.
Seems like he's, again, fitting very well with the team and obviously is working out well for the TNC as a whole. Now, going back to a name that you mentioned there, Faceless, for the longest time, really throughout most of this year, it's been Faceless and you guys as like these teams from Southeast Asia that we could almost expect. Like, I know that going into this Southeast Asia region was going to be one of the toughest regions and one of the most, unknown as far as like what's going to happen probably, but especially with 3 spots on the line. But part of me still also believed that it was going to be you and Faceless, at least as 2 of the teams. Obviously, Faceless, not the case. They didn't even qualify for the playoff stage, coming up short. What was your reaction when you saw that?
I had Faceless in my predictions as well. It is... Well, they made a decision, right? Because they had switched out some roles within their lineup, and they did well with that at the Manila Masters. But the problem with that is that if you make the switch, it's going to throw people for a loop, and you might win just because you are surprising people. And then the second one is that they'd only use this style versus international teams as opposed to SCA teams. And I think if I'm them, what I do is I play the old style again for the qualifiers, because that's tried and proven, And no one in SEA is going to get past that. It's worked for you the entire year. And TNC, I was already with them when TNC lost to that old Faceless in Kiev. So I think if I'm them, I play the old style versus SEA and then switch the roles around again for when I go to TI proper.
Yeah.
But they decided that this was the better playstyle, and of course they did have great success with it. But I'm thinking it was too much of a risk, honestly, and everyone could just push their safe lane in completely. Which is, well, if you have such a big weak spot, you gotta be compensating in other places, and it just didn't really happen. And I'm very sad for them because they've had such a dominant year still, and to be, punished for staying together like that by not making it in the end is really rough.
Well, the teams that did end up qualifying, one specifically I want to bring up here, Fnatic, of course, coming as really the second place team. You mentioned that it came down to the final match even against them of the group stages. It was fun how it was set up like that, at least for the spectators, as you made a point. It was a little, hard to watch as it was so much on the line, but of course TNC came through. Fnatic, though, ended up qualifying through the playoffs. Now, just a quick backstory, of course, you have the history with Fnatic yourself. You formerly were the coach for them. Was part of you, were you ultimately happy to see Fnatic qualify, or is there some bitterness there? I mean, what's the deal?
Bitterness. I mean, I am sad that I couldn't continue with them after going through the hard times with them, but I guess they had to find a path on their own. And I am happy that they did, because especially Ohio went through a really rough year, and Febby sticking after the ESL Genting disaster is also like, these guys definitely deserve to go there. And I was actually worried after we sort of murdered them in the last match of the group stage, and I was really worried that we'd have tilted them or something. Or that they were going to get Mineski, and Mineski has always had their number. So I was like, all right, come on, guys, please don't let this be it. Please don't let this be the last. Like, don't let it get to you. And they didn't. So I am very happy to see those guys, and I actually went to visit the house like 2 or 3 days ago because my stuff was still over there. So I picked up my badminton racket and stuff, and it was good to see them all again. Like, congratulate each other. Because in the end, you're all in the scene to do the best that you can. And these guys worked really hard. They came up all the way from the bottom once again, and now they're here. So I'm happy to see them in Seattle. But I'm warning them, we're gonna be exactly as merciless the second time around, so they gotta get their points elsewhere.
Understandably, you're here to win, of course. So, the last team to qualify to Southeast Asia, of course, Execration got through Mineski as well as Clutch Gamers, and I think again I was casting a bit of these playoffs here, including that epic match that Execration beat Clutch Gamers, and it looked like a 71-minute match there ultimately to qualify. Was Execration a team you saw come in, or were they maybe a surprise?
Execration, there's good players on there, right? And they have been very solid in the past. But what I didn't expect, and it once again stood out to me when I went back through their entire qualifier run, I watched all the VODs, is that these guys learned after every single match. And they did that throughout the opens, and they took it into the regionals and then into the playoffs, and they kept learning and they kept learning. And that is incredibly impressive to me. So even if they might have not been TI qualifying material at the start of the qualifiers, they definitely were by the end. And that takes an enormous amount of willpower and energy and listening to each other and I am very impressed. Really, if they can continue to keep that up, they're going to do really well in TI as well.
Yeah, kind of one of those dark horse teams that you never know. They could make a splash though. So going back to you guys, back to TNC now, TI7 coming up here. You mentioned you're in a new team house and everything. The team, I'm sure, is practicing quite a bit, scrimmaging, boot camping, whatever. How are you preparing? What is your preparation like now, knowing that you're going to TI7? How do you go about this? Is it just a lot of researching the other teams or what?
Yeah, because we are not really scrimming right now. Not very, very seriously yet. We're ramping it up slowly. I am mostly doing research, so I have watched all of the qualifier teams, games from all the qualifying teams, and I have watched the entirety of MDL and the last series of everyone else that has been invited as well. So I have a massive spreadsheet full of information. And I'm going to use that to build my briefings on once we get to TI, because it allows me to compare the new information that I have of all these teams post scrims and post boot camp with what they did before. And I can see, all right, what changed? What hasn't? Which strategies that worked against them before would be defanged right now? Which ones would still work? So I've got that one ready. And then once we move into scrims, I'm going to turn up the pressure. Because we are going to be scrimming SEA teams, obviously, and they might not feel like that's much of a challenge. But as long as I keep reminding them of the places where better teams would have taken advantage of their mistakes, they're going to get better anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna enjoy that. These guys have a habit of getting a little bit too happy with themselves.
Yeah.
And I am happy to
keep them in check.
To remind. Yes, exactly.
No, you need that discipline, and that's what a coach should be doing in the end. So that's good to hear. You mentioned as part of your preparation, again, you're watching a lot of matches, all the MDL there, and just everything else going on. Some people may hear that and be like, oh, I'm envious of that. You just got to watch Dota all the time. I'm not envious of that. I imagine that I love Dota, but I can imagine that gets a little tiring after a while, a little old after a while. Is that the case for you? Or do you just enjoy it so much that it's just almost fun for you?
It is fun once you start getting it, but sometimes, especially with MDL as mentioned, sometimes everything starts to blur together. And I need a certain level of that blur. After I've watched enough replays for a couple of days, I start seeing through the game, and I start seeing the patterns very clearly, instead of all the surface stuff that goes on. But if that continues, and the patterns are always the same, yeah, it's still a grind. And don't get me wrong, I love the grind, but I did need to get a couple days break from that, because you start dreaming replays, and it's not healthy. A lot of people think that because you work in video games, you get to play video games, and they should look at my Dota buff, right? Because I get like 1 or 2 matches in a week. Just take a 9-to-5 job, guys. You get to play way more video games.
It seems like it. Yeah, it's almost ironic there. MDL, of course, again, going back to that real quickly, watched all of that. So I'm sure you're now prepared to deal with Samael's Ancient Apparition mid and, crit playing Puck as a support. Like, what did you think? That event had a lot of funky stuff going on with some hero picks. Was there really something that stood out to you from the MDL that you're like, okay, we need to get ready for this? Or do you feel like it was more of a teams kind of entertaining stuff, but not necessarily something you should expect?
I don't know. I like that people tried the support Puck, because it turns out it's sort of an Earth Spirit kind of thing, except it grows into a hero that can clear waves, which is a novel kind of approach. And I think there was a lot of hiding strats going on, especially from OG. They only picked Ana Invoker and then 2 Faceless Voids. I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
But for OG, and then also for the China teams, I think OG was kind of relearning how to play aggressively because China was playing so passive. And then, especially the LGD sister teams actually came out of nowhere with a couple of very aggressive drafts. Just when you think, oh, this is China, all they do is rise. No, they choose to. But when it's necessary, they can pull out something very different. So that was very interesting. And of course, Visage. I think Carry Visage is here to stay. We're going to see more of that in TI for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of those heroes that did kind of stand out as, okay, maybe we could expect to see more of this coming up. So, TNC at TI7. Now the ultimate question here, Kips. And obviously, sure, it's going to be biased, and that's just fine. But what for you would be satisfying as far as a result goes at TI7?
If we don't make it to the top half, we are going to have underperformed, definitely. I think there's always several teams that have the possibility to take it all. And last year's Fnatic, they got pretty far. Maybe we got further than this TNC lineup will. But they didn't have what it takes to win it all. And this team does. This team could do it. And I'm not expecting anything. We could go out bottom too. It might just happen. You never know.
I hope not.
As I said before, expectations are horrible, and they are what makes you fight yourself instead of the opponent.
Yeah.
But top 8 is the kind of performance we should be looking at, and then top 4 certainly doable as well. Anything beyond that, you also got to get lucky at some point.
Yeah. And anything can happen.
But you got to be good enough to get lucky, and we are.
All right. Well, Kips, I do want to thank you for taking the time once again to talk with me here about TNC and your guys' journey and everything coming up here. So before I let you go, any shout outs, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, it's like, I want to thank my team for being amazing and having me along for the ride. It's been fantastic so far, and these boys are the best. And, well, thank you so much for having me along as well. I always like these kinds of things, so I'm happy to just talk Dota. It's always so much fun.
It's always fun, and I look forward to seeing you at TI7 as well. Planning to go out there myself, so we'll talk more in person then, and obviously we'll wish you the best of luck at the main event there.
Thank you so much.
All right, now we get to talk some compendium, some TI7 going to be coming up, and who better to talk this with, of course, than my boy Zrock here, going to be joining the show. We're going to be going over predictions as well as talking a little bit about the Dream League here. But Zrock, as always, how's it going, man?
Excellent. Gearing up for your TI season. Just booked my flight today. I'm excited.
Nice. Yeah, it's gonna be a kick-ass event. I mean, Seattle in general really is a beautiful city, and just the from what I've heard, the venue itself it's pretty awesome. It's
oh yeah, you haven't been to one yet, have you?
No, I've never. Again, technically, I was at the first one because I was working at Gamescom over in Germany for that other game we don't talk about now. But
oh yeah,
other than that, I've never actually been. No.
I forgot that's where the first one was.
Yep.
All right. So you get the real TI experience. So you get the last one in Key Arena, supposedly.
Is it really?
It's slated for demolition at the end of this year.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
It was actually rumored they wouldn't have it this year there because shortly after TI last year, the city documents started to go through and the permits for demolition. But turns out they weren't starting it yet. They're going to keep it open through the summer season. And thus we get one more TI at Key Arena.
Well, that's cool. I also know that the WNBA All-Star Game is happening at Key Arena in a couple of weeks. Don't ask me how, but I somehow know that.
Sports.
Sports, indeed. Anywho, let's talk about the real sports, our esports over here. That's going to trigger a lot of people.
I can't even keep a straight face when you say that.
I know it's bad. It's bad. No, but let's talk about some competitive Dota here. And before we get into the predictions, we're gonna have some fun with that. But I figured it made sense to first start with the Dream League event. Let's kind of just preview that real quickly. Again, this is a smaller event of sorts. It's only a 4-team tournament. It's taking place this weekend. It's a 2-day event. And you got Team Secret, Team Liquid, Vega Squadron, and Planet Odd playing for a $175,000 prize pool for 14. I mean, that's not bad money at all. So this should be interesting.
Oh, and there was even more money in it. Dream League was the first one to do you play your series, you get your money. And they had this basically set up so that you made money if you won each time you played it. This league's been going on for months. This is just the LAN final. I've loved the format thus far. And I think a short little 2-day LAN as a precursor to TI is just a perfect way to end this.
I agree. It's I mean, let's be honest. I would just love more Dota in general, but no, it's realistically, it's kind of a nice, filler before we really get to TI itself. And it just so happens, obviously, listing off the teams right there, 2 of these teams are going to be going, of course, Secret and Liquid. It could have even been 3. Obviously, Planet Odd was able to squeak in there. It could have been 4.
Vega didn't do that bad in their qualifier. I mean, they were like they held their own for a while at least.
They're middle of the pack, yeah.
Yeah.
They've always kind of been a middle of the pack CIS team, I feel like. They went to what land did they go to earlier in the year? I'm gonna have to look at that now.
Vega?
I know.
They went to, I know this too. It was the Galaxy Battles, right?
They got second in the qualifiers for that, so I don't think it was Galaxy Battles.
I mean, they went to Star Ladder back
Star
in
Ladder,
May.
that's what it was. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Galaxy Battles they did not make it to, but Star Ladder they went to, yeah.
And I'm really excited for this tourney just because, yes, some people will say maybe Secret and Liquid might coast through this, but for Vega and Planet Odd, this is a nice little way to see how they stack up to the international competition. I'm sure there's going to be Reddit threads and people complaining galore if like Vega or Odd goes on to win this, because they're going to say, oh, these teams didn't make TI, but Liquid got a direct invite, blah, blah, blah. I'm definitely curious to see how this one pans out. It's a pretty basic, just double elimination bracket. I believe it's best of 3 all the way through, and then grand finals is a best of 5. So
yeah,
by the time this podcast is up, it will have started. Starts in 10.5 hours.
It really does, yeah. As we're recording this, as late into Friday morning here, even for us. So yeah, it starts in 10.5 hours. So we're gonna get right into it here. And again, it's only that 2-day event, but yeah, if Vega or Planet Odd win it, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing to me, as you're pointing out. And I get why people would have that reaction, but now I made it very clear for MDL that I wasn't gonna take anything from that. I'm gonna. It's the same way for me here. I mean, if Secret and Liquid, if they collapse, if Vega and Planet Odd end up in the grand finals, I'm not gonna look at this and be like, oh, Secret and Liquid, they're sketchy going into TI.
See, and
I
think
it would surprise me at the same time.
I think this tourney means a lot for Vega though, because CIS, if we remember, was very controversial in the fact they only got 1 slot. And if they manage to go on and win this tournament over a TI invite team and a qualified team, it might raise some heads as to, well, why didn't CIS get 2?
Yeah, but then again, the other side of the argument is like how much we're Liquid and Secret trying, right? I guess we have to wait to see the matches play out ultimately to kind of be able to truly judge that, rather than just jumping to these, what ifs basically. But I mean, that is a fair point. It's for the future that could be interesting to see. But at the same time, now, does that really mean anything at this point? Because obviously we know now with the next cycle, the new season, it's going to be based off points now. It's not even going to be a biased invite system anymore. So it might be good for Pride, but outside of that.
Now that's not entirely true, because the direct invites will be point based. The allocation of qualifier slots has not been revealed yet in any way. So we still don't know, because they said they're going to do what? Did it even specify how many invited teams? I think it said 6.
I don't think so. Did it?
Maybe it didn't say anything, but that still leaves all those other slots open and up for grabs, and they're going to have to figure out how to divvy it up. I'm hoping they take a page out of CS's book and do a regional qualifier that only gets like 1 to 2 teams, but it's static across all the regions. And then they have an offline qualifier for the qualifier, basically. Yeah. Like you bring all the teams together and then top half move to TI or something. But We'll see. There's a lot of room for improvement, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this tournament. It's going to be fast paced. It's just going to be a real quick, down and dirty tourney, and I'm kind of a fan of the people they're bringing out. ODPixel and Fogged have been a great duo for the casting pair for it, and it's good to see Knoxville get out there and do some work.
Mm-hmm. And who's there? Merlini and Capitalist on the panel, looks like, and then
Yep.
Of course you got to have Sir Action Slacks as the co-host with Coddle Guy. Actually,
It's
He's
actually
stepping in for
funny.
Sheeper.
Sir Action Slacks is doing so much work this weekend. Not only is he hosting or co-hosting Dream League, he's also working at DreamHack on other events. Like that guy is running nuts this weekend.
What is he doing?
Some other hosting stuff was my friend was there and he had a picture with him and he said Slacks said he has like 2 or 3 other things he's helping with. Plus, Slacks, he's going to go make his own content on the side as well, knowing him. So
The dude grinds, man.
oh man, when he is in work mode, it's like 18-hour days for that guy. He's nuts.
The fact that he's busting out these videos too. In fact, a new one just came out today, I think, on Liquid. He's doing these team profile videos, basically, kind of previewing, and it's either they're interesting because it's a mix of like they're troll kind of like they're the Sir Action Slacks flair, but they're informative. They're actually kind of informative, and it's kind of cool.
And on that note, I can't reveal too much yet, but him and I are working on a little project to update an old video with a bunch of Sir Action Slacks flair, and hopefully that project does get done in time for TI, as it is pretty TI focused. So hoping that all comes together. Might be able to share more with you here as we get closer, but we're working on something, and it should be a lot of fun.
Man, yeah, I got me curious too. This is the first I'm hearing about this. All right,
right.
You get to work with the great Sir Action Slacks. Lucky you.
Oh man, I actually worked with him before he was a thing. I was at TI standing in the secret shop line, and he heard me talking to friends, and he goes, "You have a cool voice," and he just pulled me out of the line, and like we ran around doing interviews and talking to people. It was the weirdest thing, but Slacks is a great guy. I'm excited to see him getting this kind of work, and I'm curious to see how he does as a host. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how he fits that role.
Yeah, no, it's something, when it comes to him being on the panel, I think he's going to do, or he potentially could be pretty good. He was actually on the panel analyst for one of these events recently. Was it even?
Yeah, it was
Epicenter. No, it wasn't Epicenter.
It was one BTS. They did the remote broadcast, right? They weren't actually at the LAN.
Well, no, there was one that he was actually at the LAN. It might have been Starlighter, actually.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah. Where I thought he definitely did a solid job of it. So. All right, what is this turning into? We're ass kissing Sir Action Slacks all of a sudden, but no, he's a good guy, doing great content. Back to Dream League.
All right.
For me, if I would like to see a team win this, I have to go with Team Secret. I mean, again, they got my boy Kazoo. This is a team that I have high hopes for going into TI7 personally, and I think that this could mean a lot for them as well. And there's obviously the potential how any of these 4 teams could win it, but for me, I would like to pick Secret as the team that wins this event.
Liquid's my favorite going in. I think they play way too fast for most of the other teams. I think they're going to be able to take it pretty handily, but yeah, I'm curious to see. As you said, Secret and Liquid may kind of be coasting a little bit, and I think Vega's definitely hungry. If they win this, there's a pretty good chance their roster stays together. If they don't, and they didn't make TI, I mean, right after TI is kind of the shuffle point. So winning something like this might be the glue that keeps one of these 2 teams that didn't qualify together.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a fun event again. It starts here shortly in only 2 days, but it's going to be some nice Dota action that we're having little of it right now. We're so spoiled at getting good Dota all the time that when we have this lull here of a couple of weeks leading up to TI7.
And I do have to point out one last little, trivia piece about this. The coaches for this team. You have Sunby is currently coaching Team Secret, and Heen is currently coaching Team Liquid. They're both former teammates from MVP Hot 6. And so it's a lot of fun. I know Sunby really well, and he was saying he was really excited for this just to get in and kind of go head-to-head against one of the people that he actually looks up to quite a bit in Dota.
Are these actually their coaches for TI as well?
Yes, they are. They picked Sunby up once they qualified for TI on Secret. Heen's been coaching Liquid for a little while, yeah.
Okay.
A few months.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, no, that'll be fun to see. Obviously, I'm sure they're having a good time there, and that's the other kind of cool thing too for Secret and Liquid. How this is getting them to the US. I know on the fact of Secret, I believe they're gonna boot camp even in Atlanta. Then they're gonna be going to like Southern California to boot camp even further, and then they're gonna go up to Seattle, around TI. So I'm sure Liquid has similar plans. The fact that they're just gonna be in America for gonna be like almost 3 weeks essentially when you go throughout TI7 as well. So kind of get settled in.
It's just so much easier from a visa perspective. You get in once and you stay in the country. It just makes life so much easier.
Yeah. All right, but that's going to be fun and coming up here. But there's this other event coming up once again. And
is there?
Yeah, I've heard about it. You know what? It's 2.5 weeks away, man. Like, it's just getting so close.
Yeah.
And that like just hit me today. I leave in 2.5 weeks basically to go to Seattle and start enjoying the main event there. So, and actually. Well, wait, does it start even before that because of the group stages? Am I missing something?
Yeah, the group stages are the week before.
Let's see, group stages. God, there's no actual date on
it. Doesn't show it. It's the week before. It starts the Monday
It has
prior.
to be the week before, yeah. So it's, hell, we're 2 weeks out, basically.
Yeah. Group stages start, I believe, on the 31st of July.
Oh, my God. It is coming up. All right, well. So, of course, as we mentioned, though, the compendium, they released the predictions as far as us now being able to do them. Of course, it's no different than the previous events here, at least throughout this year. You got the heroes, the teams, the players in the tournament, and then individual categories within each one where you get to select. Now, I want to preface this first with there's plenty of others out there that do their own predictions and post videos on and whatever that perhaps... At least in my case, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for you, but are maybe a little more researched on these things. I kind of go into this more of like what is my belief, just the eye test, right? From what I've seen recently, that's how I'm going to make my judgment calls. So we'll see.
Mine are a little more based in stats. I watch a lot of Dota, but yeah, no, overall, it's not something I've poured over spreadsheets and broke down, but no, I think it's just more for fun than anything. There's plenty of hour-long insightful videos with backing to their decisions, but it's just something fun to do. It's kind of the whole point.
Yeah, but I guess why I'm ultimately saying that is don't take this and be like, all right, well, I'm doing this because they said so. That would just be silly, in my opinion, at least. But if you want to, then hey, I like to think I know what I'm talking about at the same time. So we'll see. All right, let's start from the beginning here. Let's start with the Heroes tab. And we might as well start from the very beginning. So let's just go with the most picked hero. Personally, so again, not to say I didn't do any research, because I definitely was looking at some Dota buff here. And ideally, I was going most recently to the MDL event to get some of that recent information, recent relevant information here. And I noticed that Earthshaker actually was the most picked hero at
Correct.
MDL, which I honestly wasn't aware until I saw that. So I'm kind of glad I looked into that. And that mixed with, I feel like 4-position heroes / offlaners has a somewhat small pool compared to all these other positions, that the chances where we're going to see an Earthshaker that much more is higher, if that makes sense. So
yeah, you hit the exact point right there. It's whether or not Earthshaker will move to first ban, first pick status, or if he will keep flying under the radar and keep getting picked like second phase or second pick. My worry is because he is so easily flexible. We've seen him ran in the off lane as much, if not a little more, than as a 4. And when a hero's that flexible, I think it may drift into first ban territory. And if it's getting banned, it's not getting picked. So that's
true.
That's my slight reservation there. But I'm with you. That's pretty much what I'm leaning towards too. I think it's just too flexible. You can put it in too many lineups, and it's not quite intimidating enough to be first banning out. I'm like between that and Sand King right now.
Okay. Yeah, Sand King obviously did get those nerfs along with like the clockwork. And yeah, before those nerfs, maybe again, but you are right. You do bring up a great point.
That pulled him out of ban status.
True.
Because we saw Sand King getting first banned religiously until his nerfs.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm trying to think about for this one. Most banned is a totally different story, but yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
That it is, but that definitely is a fair point that you bring up. That especially with them being the most picked at MDL, that maybe raise some eyebrows for the teams too. And like, okay, we need to pay attention to this hero more. Let's give him more respect. So the idea that he could be banned more is definitely there. But I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to take the risk that he will be the most picked, most banned. Speaking of bans, I'll let you go first for this one. Who did you pick?
Most banned is hard because I don't think we're really to that point. Honestly, I'm leaning Darkseer. And I don't think it's because he's overtuned. I think it's just people have this stigma against Darkseer, this fear of it. And I'm assuming EG is going to make a deep run. If EG makes a deep run, you ban Darkseer first ban every time. That's the way I'm honestly leaning towards. I don't think this patch has as much of a permaban as it used to in patches prior.
No, it really doesn't, and that is interesting. Especially, it feels like we've constantly been evolving, and I feel like I've heard a lot of people, even including yourself, were going into this TI. This is going to be probably one of the most unknown metas as far as what we're ultimately going to expect. Right? That even makes this more of a crapshoot. As far
and
as
I think it's going to be team driven. I think we're in a meta where we can have teams play to their play style rather than having play to the meta, and that's a great position to be in. Like, because of that, I'm leaning Darkseer. It could be like Faceless Void. All it would take is Void to stomp 2 or 3 games in group stage, and that's instantly going to be first ban. Because there aren't a lot of counters to it. Like, legit, viable counter picks. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, my top 2 for that were Darkseer or Wisp.
Yeah, Wisp always has to be up there, doesn't he? He's kind of that flavor hero. For a lot of teams, and he kind of going off of what you're just even saying before, that there are those teams out there that you just, you know what, we're not going to deal with it against this team.
Yeah, I actually think maybe Wisp over Darkseer, because I think there's more teams that have a Wisp threat on their team.
Yeah.
Like EG, obviously Darkseer is a permaban, but as it keeps getting nerfed and getting nerfed, some teams have started ignoring it, but the Wisp is always a threat.
Well, see, again, and I know we shouldn't take this to heart, especially with what I've said in the past about MDL itself, but interesting that both Darkseer and IO on the list here, they were banned. They were even picked and banned very few times. They were down there at like 20th or 30th even, as far as picked and banned combo. So they weren't really too relevant in that event themselves, which I do find interesting. I would have figured IO honestly to be a little bit higher up there.
I think a large part of that was just the fact that EG was just kind of testing things. We'll leave it at that to be nice, but that definitely swung a lot of things.
Anyways, all right, so my pick, I actually went with Nyx Assassin. Another one of these kind of these hybrid 4-position offlane heroes. Nyx Assassin, again, in reference to MDL, he actually was the second most banned. He actually tied with the Night Stalker, sure enough. But Nyx Assassin is just all around across the board. I think really any team has the potential to run him and run him pretty well. So the idea of him being banned is, I think, pretty high. He's kind of one of those neutral, just banned heroes.
Sure. No, I think that's definitely possible. And that one's going to be really hard in this patch, because I think all it's going to take is for, in the group stage, whatever team, quote unquote, figures out the meta to get their stuff banned out. I think it could be Faceless Void just as easily as it could be Puck. Like, Puck gets picked way more at LANs than he does online because of being able to phase shift with 0 ping. That's a huge, huge thing.
I almost went with Puck that you mentioned that, because if anything, for the idea too that EG really showed even the support potential of the hero, and I could see teams just be like, we just do not want to give you any chance of running this hero, and more teams could pick up on that. So,
and if the meta was a little more defined, I mean, I'd be really inclined to say Drow, because if there's like 3 to 4 ranged heroes, you tend to just 5th ban Drow. It's just what you kind of have to do to stop yourself from getting cheesed out. But it had an insanely bad win rate at MDL the 5 games it was picked. And yeah, it was banned a ton, but
it was the most banned hero at MDL though, which is kind of weird. But you're right. It went 1-4 in the games that it played.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, no, I think it could be a lot of things. I think your Nyx is a more than acceptable thing. I just think we're going to hit a LAN. Everyone's going to go back to banning Wisp. Like, TI's always been that way. But we'll definitely have to see.
All right. Hero with highest win rate. So we'll kind of bounce back and forth here since you went last one. So for this one, this might be a little bit of a curveball, but I went with Visage, actually. Now my reasoning for that is that for this one, for Hero with highest win rate, because minimum of 5 games played. So you have to be careful, picking a very popular hero for obvious reasons. They're going to have a closer to 50% win rate. In the case of Visage, I think he's one of these that he's not going to be seen the most, but he has been making more and more appearances, even into possible mid Visage, let alone the support Visage, that he can definitely have high impact in games, and eventually we can see him banned against teams or whatever, but he'll have that high win rate in the minimum games that he plays. So that's kind of what I'm going with there.
You and I are in the exact same train of thought. I went with Chaos Knight for the same reason. You won't pick Chaos Knight if it's not a good CK game. You pick Chaos Knight when it is a good CK game, and you might just run over the game. Like, I was even thinking about stuff like Brood. Because if you're picking Brood, it's 5th pick, good game for it. But CK seems like it might get picked 5 times, Brood might not.
Yeah. Brood's a little tougher, exactly. Yeah, there's a couple.
It was 3 for 3 at MDL.
It was 3 for 3,
and we have a lot more games at TI.
That's true. Yeah, that's actually, 5 games, it really isn't that much. Yeah.
No. We're going to have hundreds of games, I think, by the end of this tourney.
Yeah, did we find out how many we're going to have? Yeah, that's actually a good point. We're going to have more than any major.
Group stage is, pairings, round robin,
best of 2.
8-man teams. So
9
group
teams.
stage alone, we're going to have 9 teams, you're right. So group stage alone, we're going to have 32 games. Way more than that. Math is hard.
No. Each team will play...
Each team will play 8 games.
Yeah.
So 8 times 9?
It's best of 2. So they play 16 games each. And then on top... Okay, it's a lot of games. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, 16 times 18. We have 288 group stage games then. That's right. You're right there.
Okay.
Every team's playing 8 games. There's 18 teams. 288 divided by 2, though, because they're playing each other. 144 games in group stage. Ta-da! Math.
And that's just group stages.
That's just group stage.
So there's going to be over 200 games, basically.
Because then the brackets are what? All best of 3? Did they specify this yet?
I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, they don't. They just say double elim. 10 out of 10, Valve. Thanks.
Well, Liquipedia has it all set for best of 3, so.
Yep, that'd be my guess.
No,
for the best of 5
has best
grand
of
final
1, actually.
For
it
losers
has
bracket
best of
round
1,
1.
the first losers round 1, yeah.
Okay, so that's the format last year was. So yeah, either way, lots of games. That's actually a prediction later on for tournament, so we'll get there and we can struggle through the math.
All right.
Highest kill average.
Who do you got?
Lena. Ember? Lena? Ember? I'm kind of back and forth. Those are my 2.
We don't see Ember anymore.
Yes, we do.
Besides,
that's another LAN hero. On 0 ping, Ember gets way better.
Yeah. It is another one of those, again, any of these with the minimum 5 games played, it's all about the kind of that nice mix. So I could see Ember Spirit definitely up there as well, but
I want to pick Zeus.
I almost went with Zeus on a couple of these, I'm not going to lie, but I couldn't.
I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it. Because, okay, at this kind of scene for Dota, if a Zeus does get picked, it's going to be a mid lane Zeus. It's going to run to the trial lane at 7 and just nuke down the supports. And then it's going to die
over and over again in the mid lane.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to be picked again. Yeah, it's one way or the other, so you never know.
Yep, going with it.
All right, that's a ballsy pick there. Mine's a little more safe. I go with Queen of Pain, more of a hero that we're going to see maybe a fair amount, and also one that you expect to get kills constantly, even in losing efforts.
That's fair.
Queen of Pain should be getting kills, so
totally fair.
Not much more logic.
I lied. I'm switching. We're going with Invoker.
Come on, no, go with the Zeus.
Nope,
you already called it.
Nope. I just realized it's going to get played a ton. There's so many prolific Invokers at TI, and Sunstrike is just way too good. Okay, yeah, that's my pick. Zeus would have been the fun one, but
you're not fun, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Boring old Zrock.
All right, highest assists.
So I put some thought into this one, and I was kind of looking around a little bit and kind of bouncing back and forth, but I ultimately ended up on Clockwork, actually.
I think that's great.
Yeah, it's just obviously with this how much roam he brings to the table, playing that four role in general is going to be getting those assists. And then the rocket flare is always going to be a nice tool to guarantee assists for him, even across the map. So,
yeah, I think that's totally fine. That's definitely in my top 2. I'm just going to be different than you and say Lycan. When Lycan howls, you get assists.
Yep.
I mean, it's an easy way to do it, and he's going to be howling every team fight. So that's going to be my pick. Something safe that still can get a bunch of them, and I think you'll see 5 games at TI. I don't think that's a problem. But yeah, no, clock is good.
I know the Kiev major at watching the Haas video, he actually brought up Spectre as his highest average or highest assist hero.
There's a good chance we won't see 5 games of Spectre.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally unpicked at MDL, and that was a tourney people were messing around trying new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so any of those global heroes, that's why even for me, Zeus actually came to my mind for me for that one too. But I figure Zeus is going to be getting the kills, if anything, rather than the assists. So,
okay, it's debatable. I mean, he gets a guaranteed assist on everyone he doesn't kill in a team fight. So
yeah, he could be up there.
But yeah,
wouldn't be surprising. All right, so Clocker, I do like him though. I honestly did not think about him until you mentioned that. So I could see him being up there too. I'll allow you to pick at that one there. All right, hero with the lowest death average. Who's not going to die? I think there's a very limited pool here.
Can OG get 5 games of Alchemist then? That's my one question.
He's one of them.
I think I'm going to pick Necro. I think Necro will easily see 5 games. Necro is incredibly hard to kill.
Yep, he's another one.
What do you got?
I got Morphling.
Okay.
Pretty difficult to kill.
Yep.
You're not going to see him much.
And then the other thing is, I think if we see Morph, there's almost a better chance of seeing a 4-role Morphling than a carry Morphling in the current state of the game. And that will die. Like, Necro is going to be played as a core if it's picked. I was kind of back and forth between Necro and Invoker, just because Ana's Invoker especially plays a very farm-heavy Invoker. He gets Sunstrike kills, he rises the jungle, he gets a very quick Midas Ags, and he kind of sticks with his team once they start playing. He doesn't seem to get picked very often, but I'm sticking with Necro. That hero is just too hard to kill.
He is very difficult. Yeah, no. It's, my only scary thing with Morphling is, again, will he get played even the 5 games? Yep. So it is a little bit of a stretch there. So I think Necro is the safer pick, definitely. And then, Alchemist is another one that, as these next couple coming up, may be part of the discussion too. But hero with highest last hit average. All right, so what did you go with?
My gut says Tinker.
Tinker, yeah. Is he really usually up there as far as last hits go?
Oh, yeah. Tinker will average like 400 to 500 last hits in a pro game. Yeah. Because he's the one pushing out your lanes. If you're behind, Tinker is getting every last hit because he's your only way to stall the game out. So he's kind of your safe pick in losing games and a good pick in winning games. If it was who's going to get the most last hits in games they win, I would say something like a Medusa.
Okay. Medusa is obviously very good, though. Split shot there. Anti-Mage is my guess, just with the Battle Fury.
Okay. My issue with AM is, yes, he farms quite a bit, but he kind of gets to his limit pretty quickly. Like, AMs kind of slot out relatively fast compared to what they used to. And then, if you're losing, you use him to split, and you get a bunch of CS, but at a certain point, he gets to 4 or 5 items, his Manta, Abyssal, plus a defensive item, and then he just goes. He kind of quits farming. Whereas Tinker is pushing out lanes till the game's over. Mm-hmm. But no, I see the point. It's a carry with mobility. I think that's totally fine.
Then that's the biggest thing is that, yes, maybe his mindset is going to be more about trying to fight, but at the same time, we've seen plenty of games with an anti-mage in it that do last longer, and he just finds himself constantly blinking around the map, farming the lanes. So the jungle, the lanes, whatever it may be. So, and I expect he's definitely going to reach at least a 5-game limit plus that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you went with Tinker?
I went Tinker.
Okay. Hero with highest XPM average.
I'm really torn on this one. I'm really torn because it's either going to be an offlane with an XP talent, a la stuff like Abaddon that gets a 20% XP gain at level 10 and usually goes a Midas. But I'm going to go with Puck. We've seen way too many Pucks just be 25 at 32 minutes. Like, the way you play Puck now is you get your Veil, you go kill a few people, which gives you some XP, and then you go farm until you're 25 with a Midas. So that's where I'm sitting solely from a practical standpoint. From what I've observed in games, Pucks just tend to level up way too fast for their own good.
They do. They definitely do. But I'm surprised. I mean, for me, it was simple because I just went with Meepo. Like, again, the question is he going to play 5 games? Yeah, that's the question. And so that's why it's a risk, just like my Morphling. But I think in these, we just mentioned how many games. We're going to see over 200 games. Like, we're going to have 5 Meepos, right?
And if you do have 5 Meepos, though, if they lose 2 of those games badly, the Meepo gets nothing. Like, on these kind of ones, it's talking average, not the most. And 1 or 2 bad Meepo games out of 5, and you're out of the running on it. The low sample size ones are really hard for averages. Like, stuff like win rate's fine if you want to pick a 5 game hero, but they got to win 4 or 5 of those games. Yeah. XP, 1 bad XP game, and all of a sudden it shoots down.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're basically going to say by picking that Meepo's going to win 5 games out of the 5 games he's played, or at least 4.
They're going to give it to Abed, and he's going to do his thing.
Okay.
That's what I'm expecting.
Okay. I don't think OG will pick it, so maybe you have a shot there.
No tell Meepo.
Probably not.
Most kills in a game. So, again, this is a case of, can you really, truly guess this correctly?
So what core is going to go God mode? To me, it's probably going to be like Sumail or no one. And then what hero are they going to go God mode on? I'm probably going to say Storm. Just because I've seen way too many games where the Bloodstone gets out of control and they're like farming Fountain at the end of the game with it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've selected. So,
well, there we go. And I think if I was going to go with a carry, I'd say something like PA, where if she gets ahead, gets to her 2 items, just kind of runs train on the game and typically gets the last hit on kills. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Storm seems a little safer.
Didn't, God, who was it? Kiev, it was, I want to say Raven got the most kills on Spectre? If I'm not mistaken. He got 33 kills on Spectre.
I would say it was 30 something. Yeah, it was nuts.
So again, that goes back to this idea. It's like, can you really guess? But yes, what is
it only takes 1 game though for this. It only takes 1 game played.
Yeah. So I know what we both Storm Spirit, and so the first one we both happen to have the same there.
Nice.
It works out.
I'm going with
Tinker
the most
again. Last hits.
Yep.
Tinker.
Yep.
Okay.
Now this is just flat out most. So this one I think is more justifiable to pick something like a Medusa, where yes, it's getting the farm if they're just holding high ground, but it also is farming in a game they're winning. I'm just predicting one of those 2-hour standstills where they're being held by a Tinker and he's marching
will
every
involve
wave.
NP.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Because all it takes is one of those games.
Or now Cloud9.
Yeah, yes. Cloud9 buying them up.
As I talked about at the beginning there, yeah, that was quite the news we got today.
I'm so happy. Like their owner of C9 Jack is super cool. He's really down to earth. I'm really happy for him. I think it's great.
I went with Naga Siren as this kind of, and this is maybe a little bit of like the flavor to do it with this. I feel like in more recent events or previous events, I should say, as well. But Naga Siren, we're going to see her 5 times. Or no, this is actually just most lasted in a
just
game.
One,
right?
one game where she holds with Radiance is all you need.
Doesn't even matter. Exactly. So there's going to be that game where she just stalls. That really boring Naga game.
No, I think that's
most last hits.
That's perfectly justifiable. Naga, Alk, Tinker, Dusa. I think all of those are fine. Now we get the fun ones, though.
The fun ones, you say.
Who's going to win TI?
Let's start from... fuck it, yo. Let's just start.
You want to go back to front? We could.
Well, it feels weird, right? Like, it's like, are we starting with that one, really? No, let's just start with that one. Which team will win?
It's EG.
You have EG?
It's obviously
EG. We've been saying our teams, I think, already. So I picked OG. Because I've been saying OG since the beginning. You've been saying
Sure.
EG for a while, so it's really no surprise.
Yeah, we beat that one to death. Dark horse team though. Let's go off before the picks here. What's your dark horse? The team that's probably bottom 8 or bottom 9 coming into this tourney.
Well, see, that's always a tough thing because TNC I actually expect to potentially do pretty well. Now, can you consider them a dark horse? I don't know.
Yes. Any team that didn't get a direct invite, I'd say, is potential dark horse.
Yeah, but then you have like LGD. Like people expect them to even win this whole thing, yet they didn't get an invite. So
I think they're going to crumble against international teams, but we'll see.
Well, so I would go with TNC then.
Okay. All right.
That's a little biased, to be honest. I had 1 for 3 to 7 on recently and Kips on today, so.
I'm going to say, at risk of sounding super NA biased, I think NP is my dark horse. I think their playstyle is just very different from so many of the other teams that maybe they just find the meta and they unlock it before other teams do.
It's something about the roster change that happened with them that I really liked and made that point right as it happened with them picking up Highlight Die after Kiev and swapping the roles around, picking up Fata there.
It's Fata, yeah. Fata unlocked that roster entirely. It put EE on a more thought-based role where you can play carry, where he just has to farm and then make 1 or 2 big decisions. And Fata can be the guy thinking and doing everything, helping the lanes, pressuring. It just entirely unlocked that team. And it helped Secret, too. It got Pilot A out of Secret, and then they replaced him with Yapsor, who's just crushed.
Yeah. No, that was a win-win for both teams, definitely.
It was. Yeah, that was a positive aspect of the shuffle. But, all right. Who's the bloody team?
Team with the most kills. So going back to my dark horse, I actually have TNC. And it's a mix of not only are they a team that I potentially see doing pretty well in this event, but they're a very aggressive team. They play Southeast Asian Dota, which is a very chaotic form of Dota, as we saw in these regional qualifiers, and they really are go, go, go. So I'm expecting them to get that most kills in the game as a result.
I went VP. I think VP is going to go against one of the top 5 teams, the OGs, the EGs, those high-end teams, and they're going to get stuck, and they're just going to grind a game out, and that's who I think. I think no one's just going to go off in some game, and it's going to snowball. My average is different, though.
So my issue real quick on the going with somebody like a VG or VP, though, is I expect VP to do very well this event. And if they're constantly dominating teams and finishing games quicker, then the likelihood of them getting that is definitely a lot less, right? So
that's why I explicitly said they're going to be against one of the top teams. And because when I'm talking average here, just to go into the next one, I got Liquid. I think Liquid's going to have bloody, fast-paced games that are going to be a struggle from day one. But I see them winning most of their games. But yeah, I think their games are just going to be way fast-paced and really deadly.
I have TNC. I kept them up there. I don't know what it is. It's something. See, last week it was IG Vitality. This week it's TNC. I just jump from one team to the next as far as, just jumping on the bandwagon.
Sure.
So I give them with the high skill average there. Again, just the aggressive play that they do. Liquid is a good pick, though. I definitely think so.
Fewest deaths, who's going to have the perfect game? That's really all it comes down to. So you're looking to pick a good team that is going to just win a game, like close it out free, no deaths, 1 death maybe. So I'm between EG, VP, OG.
I had to pick OG for one of these, and so I picked it for this one.
And your winner,
Yeah, well, but I went outside of the winning. That's my point, because I picked them to win the whole thing, so they have to win one of these, right? So I picked them for that.
I've got EG. I think they'll have some clean game. I almost thought about picking NP because I think NP could have a perfect game against Infamous. If I really wanted to get meta and target it, because they've played against them so often, and I think they're on a different level. Yeah. One of the few teams that has played against a lot of their regional counterparts here. EG doesn't play against most of the South American teams very often. I guess all the Chinese teams play against each other. That was my other thought. You could maybe take LGD beating IG in a clean game or something. But yeah, I went with EG. I
don't know if I see any of the China teams going at it being that dominating of games.
2 years ago, I would have said it was almost guaranteed to be a Chinese team. Now they've seemed to pick up some SEA habits. Yeah, sure, flair. But yeah, all right. Most assists.
TNC.
I'm sorry. Can I get a new host here? I think he's broken. He just keeps repeating himself.
TNC Pro Team. They're gonna make some big plays at this event. They're gonna get second place behind OG. No, I want to retract that. I don't want to make that.
You don't want to commit to that one on podcast there.
Not committing to that one.
I'll go with Liquid. I think they're going to 5-man a lot. 5-manning leads to a lot of assists, and I think it's going to accumulate into a lot. But
so actually, this one I did do a little bit of research on. Now that I'm thinking about it,
the most assists.
The most assists. I literally opened. No, not this one. I'm sorry. Well, I also got some information from this one, but this will be a later one actually for the most different heroes. But we'll get to that. Team that wins the longest game for me, NP/Cloud9.
Really?
Yeah. They have
to
the long
win
game.
the game though.
Okay, I mean,
who are they going to have a very long game with that they're going to beat? That's my issue with picking them. I think they will have
DC.
games go long. Okay, perfectly justifiable right
possible,
there.
Yeah.
Yep, that series could go forever.
Who was the game that they went really long against at the regionals? That was Planet Odd? It was Planet Odd, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
Hour 15 or something, hour 20.
Yeah. And then, I guess you could also lean towards Empire. They have that experience.
But they got to win, too. That's the problem. I'm taking LGD. I think LGD is going to have some drawn-out series against EG, and it's going to just last forever. And to be fair, EGs tend to win the really long ones, but I got to get some Chinese respect here because I don't have any.
Yeah. I like how you're being very specific with like the matchups even.
Well, that's how I'm thinking about this is what matchup do I see this happening in? Because when you're talking about extremes, you need to break it down to the matchup. If you're talking averages, totally different story.
That's fair. What about the shortest game then? I have a feeling we could be the same one here.
VP,
yeah.
Yep. They're just going to completely close out against somebody like Empire. I mean, Infamous. I think it's honestly whoever beats Infamous the fastest. I'm going to say it. Like, not say I don't expect them to win a game or two in this, but I don't think anyone really expects them to run deep in the tourney. Mm-hmm. And I think, VP might just either them or Dog or DC or they're just going to manhandle some team. And it was VP or Liquid. Liquid plays so fast, I could see a 12 or 13 minute GG coming out at some point, but
you're liking Liquid this event. I'm noticing that trend.
For this, not for winning the tourney, but for coming out fast, dirty, and bloody. Yes, I think Liquid is really good for this.
Highest
I don't want to be the same as you. I'm switching to Liquid. I don't want to match you.
Wow.
All right. Now we're in averages though. This is where this gets more fun. Who draws games out endlessly and they don't have to win? I'm on NP.
That's my pick.
Yep. Yeah. Consistently their games just take forever.
Yep.
That's just how it is. I mean, who else would even be in contention here?
Alliance if they were here.
You're not wrong.
Oh.
Ouch. I would say OG is a possible thing. They tend to like hit 50 minutes though and get bored. And then they go. I don't know. EG's had some long drawn out series too, but that was kind of the meta.
Yeah, it's hard to pick like any of the Chinese teams for this as well.
It's hard to pick Southeast Asia for any of this.
Oh yeah, well, not for me, but
I mean, yeah, you're a TNC fanboy, but that's fair. Different heroes?
Maybe Team Secret could be the game length. I guess they could be
maybe
potential, but
I
don't really see them have a long game. So yeah,
no, I think it's it. I'm gonna stick with MP.
All right.
Oh, who's gonna go crazy? Pick a bunch of different stuff.
So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is where I had all these tabs open because I was actually kind of curious. I'm like, who should I pick for this? And so I kind of got like within the last 6 months, it's all diversity of all the teams and how many heroes each of the players have played. There's a couple teams that are up there, but honestly, the team that stood out the most and it kind of makes sense is Virtus Pro, especially with what they did at the Summit event.
Yep.
They're not afraid to really try a lot of different things.
I agree. I'm definitely with you there. I think that's a strong choice. The other thing is you need a team that goes to main event for this, right? Because these aren't just group stage, according to what I'm reading in the compendium.
That's a good point, actually, yeah.
So teams that go longer are going to play more games, chance to pick something weird as a 5th pick. And I think VP is going to run deep. I think that's a totally reasonable choice.
There was a couple others. I went with Newbie initially, because they're actually pretty diverse from what I saw here. Secret actually plays it a little bit, but then Yapsor and... Well, because Yapsor is newer to the team.
Yapsor's playing Rubik or Nyx. I mean... Yeah. VP is definitely my strong one. Newbie, LGD, EG, probably all honorable mentions for teams that'll make playoffs and pick a lot of silly stuff. OG is probably... Okay, I'm going to wait on that one. OG is my fewest. OG's going to make it on, though.
Yeah, that's a little risky.
I lied. I'm going Infamous, actually. Let's give the nod to South America here. A, I don't think they're making it out of groups. B, I think their drafting style's been binary. I've said it on podcast after actual cast. They have combos of heroes they pick. So, yeah, that's where I'm sitting. They tried some stuff in the qualifier, and it kind of looked weird. They didn't win with it, so they went back to what they know. Yeah, definitely my pick.
Yeah, and you know what? I just pulled up there because I actually didn't have their tab up before, and they are down there. I didn't choose them, and I'm still going to go with my pick. I went with LFY, actually.
Okay.
They have 3 players on their team. Again, we're talking about the last 6 months right here. They have 3 players on their team that have 15 or less heroes played, which most of these teams have 20 to 25 heroes, if not even upwards of 30 different heroes that they've played. So that really stood out to me compared to all the other teams here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there for sure. I mean, Afu has definitely, you give him Earthshaker, you give him Sand King, like he plays a very initiation heavy 4-position heroes. Yeah, no, I think that's a perfectly reasonable pick. I just think there's an off shot that they run deep and maybe they change it up, but well, I think that's reasonable.
All right.
I hate player predictions.
Player predictions. It's this is where it's players, and even the last one especially. It's just like, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But we might as well, let's just run through them. Let's not take too long here. But
okay.
High skill average. I went with Raven because TNC. I'm sticking to it, man.
Fada. I think he's the back of NP, and they tend to build lineups around him more than most of the teams. So I think he's definitely going to be up there. Most kills in the game. Oh, go ahead.
To be fair, real quick, Raven actually has one of the highest KDA's averages amongst all players.
KDA average. He doesn't die very often. Fada will die, but he'll get 3 to 4 kills.
Okay.
But no, I don't think that's necessarily bad, but
stick with the fanboyism. Most kills in a game.
Yep. Sumail.
So you think the Sumail Storm Spirit?
Yeah.
Kind of lining it up there.
Sumail Quap, Sumail Storm, Sumail Puck. He's going to go something that he just gets ahead on and runs train in a game. Like, I think there are better on par mid laners and there are more explosive off laners, but as far as getting the kills, when Sumail gets ahead, he plays it like a pub. He will run at you in the fountain to get one more kill.
I went with mid 1, the mid player for Secret, of course.
I agree. I mean, I think that's fine. Yapsor has been babying him religiously since he came on the lineup. They've been spoon feeding him kills. Mm-hmm. I absolutely think that could be it. I would have actually rather had him for kill average, I think, than most kills. Because I think when he gets ahead, he doesn't pressure as hard as a lot of the other mid laners. But, yeah, I think it's reasonable.
Lowest death average. I have a feeling, I'm just going to say this, so we might have the same person.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, who do you have then?
No one.
Okay, so we'll see. I went different. I went Ramses.
Okay. Yep.
So close.
So this one I'm on the fence on. I might change it to a carry before they lock, just because I think carries inherently have a few more or a few less deaths than mid laners.
Yeah,
but
taking a mid laner is a little risky. I feel like
a mid laner is very risky. But I'm looking at the carry list as to who I think plays safe, and I'm kind of struggling to find who I think that's going to be.
Ajit actually plays pretty safe, but I don't think Fnatic is going to have the best time this event.
Yeah, losing is going to hurt that average.
I almost went to him, but that reason alone is like, nah, I can't do it.
I was almost going to pick Matumba Man, but their games get really bloody and people die either way. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sticking with no one for now. That may become Ramses as well later, but I think they're going to run deep. They're definitely my top 2. I think they'll make the grand finals, so that generally means less deaths.
Highest assist average. I will always choose Jerax for this spot.
Yep. Didn't even think there was going to be discussion on that one.
No.
That guy just moves around the map so well. He's involved in everything that OG does. He's just nuts.
And they're going to be winning games naturally, so that's going to mean a higher assist average ideally.
Most assists in a game is meaning we need to find someone that's going to have a long game that they're also heavily involved in. I'm leaning MSS.
Ooh, okay.
Because I feel like a lot of their strategy tends to revolve around him. They like him playing initiators. He's been playing a lot of Earthshaker, which gets a ton of assists. Yeah, that's what I have picked.
I have Owie, 2000. Okay. So from the same team, but
same concept. A team that's going to go long and win one game. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Owie's good.
Highest last hit average. I once again went with Ramses. Virtus Pro. Dude knows how to hit creeps.
He does. Right now I have Somnus.
Whoa. That's different.
Yeah, that one's hard. I don't know. Because last hit average... I don't know.
You know, now
really
hard. I'm actually looking at, again, these team tabs here and seeing the last hit average, and Somnus is actually... But he's up there, but Ame is even higher than him on his team. So
they just farm a lot. Like, that whole team just farms a lot. That's where I was leaning on that, and I think if they get caught in a long game, farm priority's probably going to him.
Raven's also up there. Maybe I should know.
Yeah. Add like your 9th TNC pick.
No, I think, again, Ramses also has the idea that I expect Virtus Pro to be going deep and doing well, and that means ideally... Well, see, that could also be bad at the same time in this, because the shorter the games... the less last hits he's getting in those games. So, now I'm second guessing myself.
I think LGD's games might go fairly long. And if I look at NP, I don't really see a Tinker player, which means I don't want to pick Fada. And
I'm going with Ame. You made me pick Ame.
Okay. Because like we've talked long enough that I think NP's games are going to go the longest, but they kind of split their farm really evenly across that team. So. That's why I'm avoiding the NP people.
No one has higher lasted average, actually, than as far as like overall history in the last 6 months.
Look at you stats guy. Nahaz 2.0.
Yeah, DotaBuff.com. It's a pretty awesome site. Player with the most last hits in a game. I have No Tails Naga. That goes back to my Naga pick.
Yeah, I'm debating. I think it might be No Tails Naga. Like, No Tails safe because it might be Naga, it might be Alk. They could go either, and both of those will stall a game out forever. But Anna's played the Alk as well. And honestly, we just don't see enough Tinker for me to find like a standout gotta pick Tinker player. There are some people here, like Miracle used to play it, but I'm actually with you on that one. Yeah, I could see it being No Tail.
I could see like Eternal Envy Medusa. Games.
Maybe. But you don't farm a lot when you go Midas Blade Mail. You tend to just get a bunch of gold because of Midas team fights. Yeah. Honestly, there's a good shot it's going to be somebody playing TA who gets their jungle just stacked for them and runs train on the Ancients, the neutral camps, and just ramps it up from there. In which case, I'd be leaning Fada again. Actually, yeah, I don't want to be the same as you. I'm going Fada.
Okay.
All right. Done and done. Next.
Highest or most GPM in a game.
I feel like this goes hand in hand with the last one for the most part. Actually, nope. Abed.
What, Abed Meepo?
An Abed Meepo over one game that they win.
Do Meeples really get that high GP? I know they get high experience per minute.
It's like 8. If Alk gets picked, though, it's going to be 1,000.
That's why I'm leaning towards Ana.
Okay.
Ana Alk.
You think it'll be Ana over No-Tail? No-Tail played it last time, right?
Well, they do mix it up like you said. You're right. Maybe you do go No-Tail here.
And we don't really have a mid Naga player. Like that used to be a huge
thing. Doesn't no one play a little bit for Virtus Pro
in the last few months?
He played it at Boston for sure.
Yeah, yep, I remember that. We just haven't seen it picked lately. Like that'd be the offshoot that I could see, but I think we got to figure out who's the Alk picker, right? It was yeah. I don't know. So Ana gives you the backup that if they pick TA and he goes off in a TA game and gets just kill after kill after kill and runs train through the game and it ends in 22 minutes and they were all hero kills, maybe he wins. And then if you pick No-Tail, there's a chance it's Naga, there's a chance it's Alk. Mm-hmm. I think either one's fine.
And who did you have?
I have No-Tail now.
Okay. OG. Representing.
GPM average, I'm taking Sumail. He just gets consistent help. He recovers well. Even when he's having bad games, he tends to have decent GPM. I think that guy will be up there throughout the entire tournament.
I'm going with
no one. You need consistency. Okay. Yep. Totally fine.
It's kind of really the same idea. They expect them to do well and consistency and all that jazz, yeah.
And even in their bad games, they're not that bad. Yeah. So, oh man, who's gonna play random stuff?
Well, I got some insight on that. With all these tabs I have open, I'm actually looking at there's some player that had like 40 plus heroes. Who was it? It was Owie. So I'm going with him. Well, no, okay, that's skewed because he did play carry before. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I almost fell into a trap there. Okay, so I can't do that.
I don't think you're picking a 4 here. I think you're almost picking a carry or a mid.
It has to be a carry mid, yeah, because we even said earlier, like offlane 4s are not really the most diverse right now, and even 5s, maybe. I could see a 5.
Yeah, there's been a lot of weird 5s. It just comes down to generally those pools, especially 4s, there's only like 4 to 6 heroes that really get picked. Yeah, this one's hard. I think I want someone on Liquid. I think I might pick Matumba Man.
God, Miracle has 35 heroes played.
Yeah, he plays a lot of stuff. And Liquid also will flex their Matumba Man and Miracle's roles. They'll go back and forth depending on the person and the hero. So you get a little bit of added value there picking NP, or picking Liquid. Oops. So that's where I'm at. I think it's Miracle or Matumba.
This is one where you do have to also expect that team to go deep, obviously.
And I expect them to at least make playoffs.
Yeah. Well, everyone makes playoffs, I mean.
Well, okay, like best of threes in the playoffs. Yeah.
So the winner side, yeah.
Everyone doesn't make playoffs. They cut 2 teams.
Yeah, well.
As you said, yeah.
16 of the 18 teams make playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Miracle just because, again, I'm working off these stats here. Best that I can.
All right.
Seems pretty relevant. Zai is 30 himself. He is actually
Zai played a ton, but Zai also played offlane at one point for a long time.
No, this is only 6 months. This is only 6 months.
This is the last 6 months.
So it's been 4 this whole time.
Yeah.
It's him too. But yeah, being the 4 though, that is a little scary at this event. I'm gonna go with Miracle. I'm sticking with him.
Sure. Ready for the fun math one?
You mean the pick random numbers one?
Oh, what do we have here for this?
Total number of games played at the main event.
1, 2, 3, 4, 8.
So 41 to 44 is our lowest. And then 55 to 60 is our highest. Interesting. Okay.
So there's a total, 60 potential games in the The
So
stage.
basically,
41 is the minimum.
Do you think it's going to go 3-game series a lot, or is it going to just be a lot of sweeps and that's really the logic?
So
here.
the lower brackets being best of one single elim means there's no choice on that one. They're done. So we're going to cut the bottom 6 teams out of this event basically without this even being a factor. After that point, I see a lot of games going to game 3, and the grand finals has a pretty big swing in this too, because that could be 3 games or 5. I'm thinking like 50 to 54.
When was the last grand finals for TI? Haven't been 5 since TI 3?
Since EG, right?
No.
EG's went 5, didn't it?
Was it in 5?
2016? I think so. Or
Well,
sorry,
that was-
2015?
No, that was 2015, but
Yeah. Years are hard. I don't know. I'll look real quick.
they went 3
Yeah,
to
that
1.
that one went 4. Okay.
Yeah, I just remember hearing that because when the Kiev Major went 5, like that, I remember that stat being brought up that like since TI 3, we haven't had a 5-game series in like these big majors.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think the group stage will have a lot of 3-game sets. I mean, you only need 3 of the multitudinous number of series to go 3 games to get to 45. So I think I think you're in the middle there.
45 to 49 for me.
Sure.
I'll go there. Total number of heroes picked. Ooh, this is always a tough one. Especially, I'm gonna go 100 plus.
Yep.
I'm doing it. Yeah, no, that's like easy actually.
When a weird meta, you're talking roughly 200 games of Dota being done over this tournament. So 1,000 heroes total picked. Yeah, I mean, we cleared 100 last year, right? I think it went to 103. It was a lot.
Well,
And all it takes is the one team that's out to pick techies.
Yeah, exactly. I'm even looking at. I was trying to pull up the Kiev Major, but okay, yeah, here we go. There was 99 at Kiev, so it wasn't
And way less
exactly,
games at Kiev than the international.
There was way less games, yeah. Okay, yeah, 101 plus for me for sure. Total number of heroes banned. Another interesting one.
I'm on the early numbers, either 0 to 60 or 61 to 70. I don't think we're going to see that many heroes banned in the I think the first 4 bans are only going to be across like 12 to 16 heroes. And then the 5th ban is going to be the wild card, right? That's where you ban out your counters. Mm-hmm. And that's where it could get weird, but I'm going to go 0 to 60.
I did 71 to 80. Who knows?
All right.
Most combined total kills in a game. This is are we going to see a bloodbath?
I just have it in my head we're going to see like a game in the 50 to 50ish range. I'm going to go like 101 to 110.
That's why I went 91 to 100.
Yep. I think we're in the same range there. All it takes is the one game, right? So But even in the 2-hour games, seeing over 50 kills on a team is rare.
It's rare. Yeah, that's why it goes long. It's because they're being so.
You're all waiting for buybacks, and you lose one hero and you wait longer for buybacks. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think 91 to 100 is the most reasonable choice.
Longest game of the tournament. I'm picking 100 plus. I'm going the max.
I don't think we'll see close to a 2-hour.
The regionals. We saw several that went this distance. So
we did.
I would not be surprised.
I'm flipping back and forth between 80 to 89 and 90 to 99. Yeah, I'm going to go with 90 to 99. Hour and a half, I think, is totally feasible for the long game of the tournament. But hour 40, I just can't think of 2 teams in this meta that are going to do it at this tourney.
NPDC. I'm telling
Maybe.
you. Calling it now.
Shortest, 10 to 15.
Virtus Pro versus Infamous.
It'll be a 13-minute GG. They'll lose their axe at like 13 minutes and call it. Somebody will. That's under 10 is really hard. Most teams won't GG out before Rax is gone. I think the fastest I've seen in a major game was like 8.5 minutes, but that was an all-in push strat that died multiple times. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think 10 to 15 is where I'm at.
Yeah, I have the same there.
Sure.
Most kills by hero in a game.
I'm maxing.
Well, because like I said, it was 33 last major.
Yep. Someone's going to go off.
So many more games even.
So 23 to 25 or 26 plus or where it caps out. Yeah, I think someone will hit a 30 bomb in this tourney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, I should. I'm glad you pointed that out because you guys can't see what we're seeing unless you're pulling it up yourselves. But it's 26 plus is the max. So there you go.
Most deaths. What 5 support is going to be just not allowed to play Dota, and how many times will they be not allowed to play?
15 to 17.
18 to 20 is not hard to get on a 5. Especially if you're playing something like a Dazzler, an AA, or especially Dazzle. Dazzler really gets in the thick of things, and he'll die and grave someone else. I'm going to go 18-20 or 21 plus. Nah, 18 to 20 is where I'm sitting.
Yeah, 15 to 17. This feels like a nice number.
Sure.
Most assists by a hero in a game. I'm thinking 36 plus, right? Like, it just has to...
Yep.
We're in a meta right now where there's a lot of these kills.
I'm thinking so too. All it takes is one 40 kill game with a Lycan pressing Howl or a Zeus static fielding. Or there's so many ways that one person could get there. Yes, it's a ton of assists, but it's kind of just playing the odds with this many games.
Mm-hmm.
Highest GPM, I'm taking 1,000 plus. Someone's going to play Alc and clear 1,000.
Yep. That's maxing it out there too. Same reason.
I'm with you there. Because, yeah, I mean, even if we just look at, like, MDL, the average GPM for Anti-Mage was 814. Like, that's the average, not even counting his best games. Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, and that'll round out the predictions.
There we go. We have 12 days and 8 hours from this recording to actually finalize them, but I'm sticking to mine. Like where I went
so it
with
must
mine.
actually start on Wednesday the 2nd is when group stage must start.
Oh,
They're going to cram 144 games in 4 days?
Welcome to TI.
Wow. Okay, that's going to be a 4-stream event then, I would assume. We'll have to see how they want to do that. That's going to be nuts.
Yeah. It's I am excited. Yeah, it's almost I didn't even think about that when I was buying my tickets initially. I was like, oh, that's right. But I mean, even if you did get to go out, that they don't have it open to public, obviously.
Yeah, no. I got into group stages at one of these major tourneys, and even then it's not that much fun. You're sitting in a hotel conference room.
Yeah.
Just
rather just watch at home, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. The only fun part is talking to the people as they're done, talking to your friends, congratulating them, but for the most part, pretty low key. It'll be more fun to watch.
Complexity win, I probably would have, but rip complexity.
Of course.
All right, well, our predictions are set. Take what you will from it, guys. But we had fun with it, and hopefully you enjoyed at least our discussions there and our own predictions coming out. But Zrock, I think we are winding down here.
Yeah, I gotta go take a shower after your TNC fandom.
We'll see which team it is next week.
I'm just dirty right now.
I mean, maybe it's a little bit of bias kicking in, but I don't know. They've always kind of been a wild card team for me, anyways. So, I think 1437, he has definitely stepped in as that captain role, very nice. And God, what was the record with him? Yeah, he's 25-11 since joining the team. I mean, that's a pretty damn good win percentage in these LAN / top competitive matches, basically. So
sure. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I don't think it's totally unreasonable, but man, you were just laying it on a little thick there. Anyway, I believe, are we doing a show next week?
It's going to be Hellraisers next week. It's my new team. Did you hear about that, by the way?
Oh, did they pick up a roster?
Yeah, Hellraisers picked up Planet Dog.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I've been AWOL for the last 2 days. I have not paid any attention, so good for them.
Yeah.
They've been an org around CSGO for a long time, so good to see them coming into Dota.
It'll be fun to see that name there, and yeah, it's as we expected, an organization actually picking up Planet Dogs there. So we do not have to.
They've had teams in the past, but it's been years. It's probably been 2-3 years, and none of the players went on to really do much. I know they picked up the remnants of Navi at one point, Art Style played on it for a while. But anyway, Should be fun, and always a pleasure to be on.
Yeah. There's definitely. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is for next week's show, but I know that we have been. We did talk a little bit about this fantasy idea, and that is something we still are working on once again. So we'll hopefully get more progress done on that, and then have more information to share with you guys there.
Yep.
If anything, just enjoy it and have fun and talk with you guys how it went on stream or on the podcast here. But yep, so that is going to do it though, Zrock. So thanks again.
Yeah, I will just say as a little shout out at the end, anyone that does listen, if you are on the .p Discord, shoot me a message if you're interested in possibly either joining or hosting your own little fantasy league with our spreadsheets once we do get them out, because it would be kind of cool to get a little viewer, listener thing going. So Zrock on the Discord, shoot me a PM. I'm pretty much always on. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, so that is going to start wrapping things up, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Look forward already even to next week's show, but big shout out once again to Kips especially for joining me on the show here and talking about TNC, and definitely that's a good conversation with her. It's cool to get that perspective, that different perspective that I think we maybe don't really can appreciate enough even. So she definitely helped with that, and it's going to be fun to see both her and TNC as a team in person. Shout out as always to Zrock for joining me, having some fun as always talking about our predictions there and having a good time with that. So again, I want to reiterate, don't take those predictions to heart necessarily. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like we're these experts that you should be making your predictions off of. Just rather another form of insight, another that's the word I've been using, perspective even. That you can take from it. But again, we had some fun with that, so hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to that as well. But again, as far as the fantasy stuff that we're talking about, I know that we kind of hyped it up a little bit last week. We didn't really have too much to talk about this week, unfortunately. We're still really trying to get things figured out. Hopefully by next week's show, we should have a more finalized thing in place, and we can kind of start rolling with it and just having some fun with it. Ideally, even if it's a very, very basic setup, I think it would be kind of fun to do and then talk about on the podcast as a result, and maybe even talk about there at TI. Who knows? I don't know the official plans yet for TI 7. I'm not going to lie, but the chance of doing some content at TI 7 for Defense of the Patience even is definitely there. So we're going to have some fun with that and look forward to that as well. But more to come on that as well. I'm sitting here teasing and hyping stuff, and I better come through now. No. As always, though, again, I appreciate it, guys, for tuning in. Thank you as always. And we will see you on the next DotPro with BreakyCPK. Have a good night, guys. Until then.